The Group of Seven, or the G7, has decided to sail full steam into the troubled waters of the South China Sea. In a communiqué after meeting in Toronto last Sunday, the foreign ministers of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, the United States and Britain declared their strong opposition to any unilateral actions that escalate tensions and undermine regional stability and the international rules-based order, such as the threat or use of force, large-scale land reclamation and building of outposts, as well as their use for military purposes. The statement did not mention China by name, but Beijing promptly fired back. A Chinese foreign ministry spokesman reminded G7 members to abide by their promise of not taking sides on territorial disputes, respect the efforts by regional countries, stop all irresponsible words and actions, and make constructive contribution to regional peace and stability. Given the sluggish global economic recovery at the moment, G7 should have focused on global economic governance and cooperation instead of hyping up maritime issues and fueling tensions in the region, the spokesman added. The communiqué focused on an aspect of the South China Sea dispute that Philippine officials should note with keen interest. It said the G7 considers the July 12, 2016 award rendered by the Arbitral Tribunal under the UNCLOS, United Nations Convention for the Law of the Sea, as a useful basis for further efforts to peacefully resolve disputes in the South China Sea. The Philippines had gone before the United Nations appointed Permanent Court of Arbitration to challenge Chinese claims that it owns practically all of the South China Sea. The Philippines should be rejoicing for the show of support from the G7, which comes at a time when it is trying to fend off increasing Chinese incursions into its EEZ. But last Wednesday, President Rodrigo Duterte mocked the landmark ruling as just a piece of paper that amounts to nothing. The G7's reaction to President Duterte's recalcitrance with regard to the ruling bears watching. The entry of the organization representing the world's richest economies will definitely change the dynamic of the South China Sea row. China is understandably upset whenever its hegemony in the region is challenged. So far, Beijing has avoided a face-off with its old adversary, the US, which appears to be testing China's resolve by sending its warships on freedom of navigation sorties in the disputed waters. With the G7 coming into the picture, Beijing needs to recalibrate its strategy because the stakes could involve more than the South China Sea. The G7 is said to be preparing a counter-offensive to China's global campaign to win new allies either through economic coercion or its Belt and Road Trade Initiative. The plan is to convince G7 members Germany, Italy and France, which still trade extensively with China, to stand with the US in transforming the G7 into a formidable economic bloc that could face up to Beijing. The G7 also wants a stronger platform from which to confront China over human rights abuses in Hong Kong and Xinjiang province. In a TV interview last week, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken hinted at the G7's China agenda. He said the group's purpose is not to contain China, to hold it back, to keep it down, but to uphold this rules-based order that China is posing a challenge to. This early, the Philippines must be ready to adjust to the political and economic forces that will reshape the region.